I don't know why we have something weird going on because let's just check in with everybody. How's the audio? Can you hear us? Folks, we had a really, we had a login adventure onto StreamYard right before we popped in here, so we need a little help. Can you hear us? Is everything weird? I'm thinking no one can hear us. Oh, really? Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Cheers. Cheers.
Look, fizzy water.
Fizzy water.
And the video's good too? Excellent. Yay. Hi. We're getting a message that our audio is a little low. So we're gonna try and boost that.
We're just gonna jack it up. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
And I do that by just going here. All right.
All right. This is a very classic Malcontents beginning.
You bet.
Nothing works.
You betcha.
Sliding in.
Well, I
on
mean,
our
it's
bare bottoms
it
at the last
depends.
second.
I mean, that's.
There's volume.
Yeah.
Delayed volume.
Yeah.
It's like deja vu.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's the way it works when. Well, Joe gets here and I'm just like, he goes, "You ready to go?" And I had just rolled off the couch.
I was late too.
Yeah.
So I showed up late, and then you were like, "Hi,
We're
we're doing a show."
We're like the guys that show up at the DMV and they say, "You got your paper?" And you like pull this thing out of your pocket that's all wrinkled up and you
With
go like
bubble
that
gum
and
in
like,
it.
"Oh,
Yeah.
that's not my car registration. That's my
That's a receipt from Taco Bell.
that's that's a copy of the restraining order."
I like that. Have you ever had a restraining order?
I never have.
No, me neither. Oh, sorry. I was having this crazy dream that there was a Power Station Mini. What do you think of that? How mini was the Power Station Mini?
Yeah. Why don't you
Like-
send us the dimensions? We'll see if we can pull it out of your brain and into reality.
Like keychain size?
Yeah, yeah. That's my idea of mini.
Yeah. You want to answer a question? We already have.
Hey,
one.
let's start right off doing something productive.
Yeah.
Because God knows I haven't done anything else productive today.
It's a Saturday. I'm
It's
proud of
Sat-
you.
Well, actually, I lied. I lied.
Oh, what'd you do?
I was on a Zoom call with the design team from 8 o'clock until 12. It was supposed to be a 30-minute call.
Wow.
It ended up being a 4-hour call, 3-hour call, actually, 9 to 12.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
talk
I mean,
about old Mork and Mindy reruns, or did you get something?
yeah, we didn't get that far. Well, the team, one member is in Germany, the other member is in the UK, and there's me. And if anybody's wondering what that's about, we're staffing up to deal with the increase in business that we've been dealing with, the increase in sales, the increase in
Congratulations.
interest in our products, the increase in product development that we've been doing, and can no longer put it off. Although we weren't trying to put it off, we were going to staff up about 8 months ago, and then we had to move the location. So it took from then until now to get the place organized enough and set up so that we even have room to bring in more people.
Yeah.
And then in that period of time, I had already hired one engineering assistant, and
Is that Julian?
yeah, and
Julian's awesome.
and then we got to the point where he wasn't enough. So I'm learning as I go. I'm learning things over again
Yeah.
in a different way. It's like starting the whole business over again with a new set of tools, because in the past, when I had an idea, I'd flesh out the idea, and then we would turn it into a real product, and then figure out how to produce it, and then get it out and sell it, and all of that, and then move on to the next thing. And since I was the only one doing most of those processes, that's how long it took everything to get out.
Okay.
Now, there's more people involved in the company operations, the administrative, the accounting, the purchasing of parts, and
There's a little more series parallel process rather than series process.
Yeah.
So you're kind of relearning how to do it within this new sort of context.
And not only that, I can operate simultaneously on a couple of different tracks.
That's awesome.
Which now, so we have the GPDI, which is being built, and we're getting ready to start thinking about packaging and shipping. We've got that, and we have the power stations going. We have the Deliverance 2 Plus going, and during that process where everything was all clogged up, I kind of had free, open brain space to chew on stuff.
And is that new?
It's new in that, because I'm not so.
Because you could hand off dealing with the peripheral things that needed to happen to.
Yeah, now it would be somebody coming. Oh, what is your game plan for this? Like, okay, you're going to handle this, you're going to handle this, and I'm going to be doing this, and blah 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 blah. And so
that's called delegation.
Yeah. Who knew? So, in the process of that, I'm like going, I've got some free brain space, and out comes the Cyclops, and then a couple of other things come out of that, and hey, these are really simple to execute on for me. So I do that, and then people are going, where is the Cyclops? Where is the Cyclops? You were talking about 2 months ago. Well, it was finished 2 months ago. Had to get it assembled. We had to get a box, the packaging, the label, and all the other stuff that usually somebody else is working on that, and then I'm the last to the finish line with, here's the actual product to go in. Now it's just the opposite. I've got it all done. We've got the QC routine all designed and set up for that, and then the dealers are placing the orders, and now the entire first run of the Cyclops is sold out, and we're just starting to finish the final step, which is packaging them, allocating them to dealers, and lo and behold, we actually started shipping them on Friday. So actual units went to actual dealers yesterday. And
looky.
So that is awesome. But I'm finding out
Real
that
Cyclops boxes.
Yeah, I've discovered that I can outrace everybody else if I can if I'm free to just create and develop. So there's going to be more of that kind of thing. We're going to have, every time we have something new out, it's pretty much a sure bet that there's between 3 and 5 new designs behind it.
Yeah.
Waiting in the queue.
Well, actually, so, I think knowing you, that's been the case for a number of years. You just needed to kind of restructure the company to allow that to really start to happen.
Yeah.
Because I watched it just, this bottleneck trying to cram.
Yeah.
7 new things through this.
It was a huge bottleneck, and we were in the space that was conducive to a bottleneck.
Brendan, I think Steve is telling us that it's lonely at the top. You and Prince.
I'm not at the top. I'm right in the thick of it. If I need to get, for example, in order for one of the guys that does the kitting, and what kitting is we have all these parts in inventory: switches, resistors, capacitors. They're all arranged on shelves, and they all have an inventory location. And in order to produce anything, a product, we kit. We pull out all the parts out of inventory for this particular production, this particular amplifier or accessory or whatever. They all get pulled out of inventory. the person who does the inventory needs to accurately pull out the number of parts he
Sure.
needs. And he's got a work order printed out, so you need this many this, you need this many this.
Yeah.
And then he's got a counting scale. So he'll go grab a handful of resistors and putting them on and calibrate a counting scale for each part.
Are you serious? I didn't know this.
I need
happened.
1,000 of these resistors. So
Wow.
he
And he's not going to
calibrates
sit there
the-
going 1, 2.
No, you put 2 or 3 in the counting scale to calibrate it.
Yeah.
And then you take them out, and then you grab a handful and you dump it in there, and it tells you there's 1,015, and then you take 15 out, and you got 1,000, and then you put that in a little bag for the kit.
How much does a scale like that cost?
I don't know, a couple $100, $300-400.
Wow.
They're not expensive.
You have to show that to me next time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't see that.
Trouble is, the guy who's one of whose responsibilities is to do the kitting, or at least the partial kitting, he is helping the shipping guy catch up on shipping the power stations, because every day we're getting 5 emails. Man, I got it on order. It's on back order. They
Is
keep
that
telling me
Jose?
blah 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 blah. What?
Is that Jose? Is that
Yeah.
his kid?
Yeah. That's Jose, and
Oh, man.
and there's another guy, Anthony. So they're back there double teaming on getting the power stations labeled and shipped to all the dealers, so
Yeah.
the people that are waiting for back orders can get their units, and that's a big push too. So what does that mean? It means the Cyclops is going to get pushed back another couple of days until he can get back
Sure.
on kitting. And
Yeah.
I'm going, no. We just got another dealer going, where's my? So I did the kitting.
Oh. How long has it been
And the
since you
difference,
did that?
the difference between him doing the kitting, I can do it 4 times as fast, because I don't have to weigh the parts. I don't have to get the scale out. I know how, I have the work order to tell me the quantities, but I know how many resistors in a handful is 500 or 200.
Mm.
I know where all the parts are in inventory. I know what they look like. I don't have to check a part number and go, oh, these little isotransformers, or these capacitors, blah, blah, these relays. I just start grabbing boxes off the shelves and line them all up on the assembly table. And I go, I need 50 of these, I need 100 of those, I need 1,000 of those, I need 25 of these. And I just boom, 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 boom. I have way more better things to do than that. But if I want to kick something to the head of the line, that's how it's going to get done. Because there's nobody else is available. Everybody else is, while I'm doing that, accounting is informing the dealers that the shipment is getting ready to go. The production manager is managing all the administrative stuff that has to do with getting us from production to shipping department and invoicing, which is opening and closing work orders and all these things. It's really complex, and everybody is really fast at their specialty.
Yeah.
But there are times, many times, when we have to just change hats and push here or push there, and that's what our team is really great at, is just, we need you to take off that hat and pick up that hat for like half a day. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're like, all of a sudden, oh, there's a bunch of Cyclops on a pallet ready for FedEx to pick up.
That's
So
nice.
we're going through all these changes at the same time as Wednesday, when it was 105 degrees outside, in our new facility that has 2 huge air conditioning units. So it's really a nice, comfortable working environment for everybody, not just the front office. They both died on the same day. Both air conditioning units died on the same day. And so we're getting fans out. We're opening the doors as long as we can until the sun comes out and it gets too hot. And then we got to close all the doors. We keep moving the fans around to blow whatever remaining cool air is in the office until it's not tolerable. And then we close early because it's too hot to work in there. So we did that for 2 days. And then we've been in this new building for 10 months now.
Okay, yeah.
in the lease, and this is a typical commercial lease, when you move into a new building, you've got 90 days to figure out everything that's wrong in that building and tell the landlord and get it fixed. Because after that, it's kind of like the warranty period.
Yeah,
After that, it's on your dime.
yeah.
Both those air conditioners are technically on our dime.
Ugh.
So $25,000 worth of AC units, when we've only been in there 10 months. And I was like going,
no.
we've had such a good relationship with the new landlords and been really nice to them, and they've been really nice to us, and everything has been going hunky-dory. And then, guys, I love you, but you know, both those air conditioning units were kind of on and off, working and not working from the day that we moved in, and you've been really good about trying to get them up and running, but your air conditioning contractor was kind of not good, and they didn't fix the problem. They just stumbled around and tried to band-aid those things and keep them working, and they fired that contractor and hired another one.
Okay.
And that guy came in and said, "Oh, everything's fine. Yeah, these are all working fine now." And that's fine, because the air was cool, the weather was nice. It was nice balmy weather every morning. You know, you get up and there's kind of like a haze in the air. It's nice and cool and beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, for 3 months
LA
it was like
for about
that.
8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
But now we're not
Yeah.
in that time.
Yeah,
anymore.
so for 3 months of that time, we didn't have any problem with the air conditioner. Why? Because we weren't using it.
Yeah.
So then it gets really hot, and we're using both of them for you know, all day, for like a week, and then they both just quit. So the building manager called me on Friday and goes, "Steve, you're going to be very happy. The management, the ownership has agreed to replace both the units at their expense."
Yay!
That was like,
Wow.
oh God.
Wow.
Oh my
You didn't
God.
tell me that
That
one.
was, oh,
That's
well, there's
really
like
nice.
10 other stories I could tell you,
That's
but
great.
that were similar to that, where it was just, we're going into this like big murky area, and then at the very last minute, it just like all smoothed out.
Yeah.
That's what,
Man, that's awesome.
so that's why today, when I laid down on the couch to chill out a little bit, it was impossible to get back off of it, man. Was it a mess? Anyway, so lots of fun, exciting things going on.
Talk more about that. But
Yeah.
why don't we have you answer this question from Solar Warden?
All right, all right.
It's kind of an amp aesthetic question. Steve, have you ever considered using chrome chassis for your amps, similar to what Mesa did with the Dual Rex in the early '90s? He's shocked no one else has done it outside of cost, because it looks so sick. They're pretty badass, gotta admit. They're like the
Pitbull prototype behind me, that's an all chrome chassis. That one right there. That's a polished chrome chassis,
yeah.
chrome transformer covers, polished chrome plated tube shields,
It's a one-off.
every nut and bolt and screw, everything. And let me tell you, it is beautiful looking, and it is a nightmare.
Mm.
You know, up until the early '90s, and that's why Mesa doesn't do it anymore either. That was still kind of a thing, that there were lots of plating companies in.
But they had that truck toolbox looking, like grip.
Yeah, the skid plate.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Looked like it weighed 10 tons too.
yeah, and that stuff came. You could buy that. You could buy that factory cut to the size you needed and plate it for you.
Wow.
So.
I wonder what that was versus, a typical chassis.
Well, I'll tell you, at the time, just the plating process on the chassis box alone was about $30-40.
That's the one that you had done?
Yeah,
Okay. And you had it done by somebody who did Harley parts, right?
yeah. I had it done by Brown's Plating in Paducah, Kentucky. They were the trick show Harley chrome plating company in
And you're like, I want it done right.
Kentucky. where they're far away from big cities where there's heavy pollution control constraints and all that.
Oh.
But we couldn't make chassis by our local sheet metal supplier and ship them to Paducah
Sure.
to do show chrome
Yeah.
on chassis like that, because that would be like $100 a chassis at a time when the chassis itself was only 40.
Mm.
These days, the chassis is practically 100, and you can't get a chrome job like that even. I mean, the show chrome guys are even fewer and farther between, and they're horrendously expensive. So getting a job like that done in Los Angeles, all the plating companies in Japan that were, or in Los Angeles that were the decent ones that could just do a decent level of industrial chrome plating,
Yeah.
they're gone.
When you say
they're still doing industrial electroplate finishes, but they're not doing chrome anymore because there's too many environmental regulations
Oh.
to
When you
to
said
deal with it.
doing a decent job, does that mean that there was kind of a higher failure rate? Like just hypothetically, you'd send them 20 chassis and like they'd mess up several of them?
Oh
Like, is
yeah,
that-
there was always a 20% fallout on that
Got it.
stuff.
Yeah. all
Now,
right.
when we did the classic power amp, the polished chrome
Yeah.
plate, that was a huge process. And the back in the day when we did the chrome one, the polished chrome one, we did
Yeah.
chrome, we did the purple one, the black one, and that was the classic. The 2150, that was an anodized process, wasn't polished. We did black, blue, purple, and I think a small run of reds. But that was a different story. With the classic power amp, that was a heavy duty piece of aluminum,
Mhm.
and that was a triple chrome plating process. It was copper on chrome, and then nickel, and then
Good Lord.
yeah, it was a 3-step plating process. That's how you get that mirror show chrome look.
Man.
See, aluminum by itself looks fine until you put it in the plating tank. The
Okay.
plating tank etches the metal.
Uh-huh.
That's when you find out how actually porous the metal is.
Hmm.
Because if it's too porous, when it comes out of the tank, there's all these little pinholes in it.
Sure.
And if you zoom in on an electron microscope and look at those pinholes, they look like black holes all over the surface
Yeah,
of
I
the thing.
imagine.
And so,
So is there any sort of like a priming process that you do?
yeah, well, you have to do a clean and strip
Uh-huh.
to get all the impurities off. And then that's when you find out if you've got good aluminum. So that means you have to have a good supplier that knows aluminum grades and delivers good quality aluminum sheet to you in the first place.
Mm.
Then that's why you have to buy the highest grade aircraft aluminum. So back in the day, that panel alone, just for the panel and the engraving, was about $120, and then the plating process, the chrome plating and polishing, because it had holes in it and had lettering engraved in it. So
Yeah.
it had to be polished first, and then engraved, and then lightly polished again
Oh, damn.
after it was engraved. So 3 chrome processes, 2 polishing processes, and then there's 5 to 10%.
Oh, no.
Yeah, failure rate. So you add that to the cost. So if you make 100 of them
Yeah.
and you throw away 20,
Yeah.
you still paid $120 per unit for those 20.
Yeah.
So you add those to the 80 that survived, and
Right.
then that's how much they cost. Well, the classic Triple X power amp that we just did a couple of years ago, the 30th anniversary one,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't chrome, that was just purple anodized. That cost $500 each to get those made. If they'd have been done in chrome, it would have been another $100 odd dollars on top of that. So, yeah, those, I mean, everybody's like going, yeah, why can't you do that? Oh, we can do it. The question is will you pay for it? And then when you look at it, wow, that's expensive. Well, it's all in That's why you see these really ultra high-end home audio power amplifiers with these massive front panels and these big, great-looking billet machine knobs, and they cost $15,000 a channel. Well, $10,000 of it is in the cosmetics, and $1,000 is in the guts, and the rest of it is hand labor.
Huh.
So that's where the money goes.
So, Solar Warden, are you saying that that the Silver Jubilee and then the special edition JCM 2000, like they had? What are we just talking about?
The chrome plating.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Did they have that? That same sort
No,
of
they cheated.
Oh. It's kind of like those Ibanez guitars that were like a flame top, and you're like, not so fast. Photo flame.
Yeah, well, we had the Pitbull 45 combo that had the chrome plated front panel on it. That wasn't chrome. That was polished stainless steel.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
We're doing what we came here to do today.
Whoa. Thank you.
We're drinking lemonade.
Just lemonade? Just
It's
lemonade.
It's lemonade.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, where's yours?
Oh, maybe now.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is exciting.
This is lemonade.
This is awesome.
This is just lemonade.
It's just lemonade,
Yeah.
but real
Real
like
lemonade.
real lemonade.
Yeah,
I didn't
like-
know this was happening.
Like where you sit in a big crock out in the back porch for 2 or 3 days, and
Wait a minute, that's not just lemonade.
I wonder what's in there. Ah,
Can we show that? The very first sip was just lemonade.
and after that it was this
This is delicious.
Belvedere.
Belvedere.
No, I'm thinking you. You're what
Organic-
made it delicious. Thank you.
Vodka from Poland.
Man, this is awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
All hail Nico-chan.
Ah, that's just what I needed after.
Man, this is perfect. Late July.
So we had a
AC
crazy
broken drink.
day yesterday. At the end of the day, it was like everything sort of settled down, and we all left, and we were trying to decide. It's too late to get home and make dinner, so where should we stop off? And I went, let's go to Welcome. And we hadn't been there in a long time, and Erica goes, yeah, let's go to Welcome. So what is Welcome? Any of our peeps from the LA area, from around the 90s that ever went to the Corbin Bowl over in Woodland Hills?
I don't. That part of town, I don't know.
There was a bowling alley that had a club in it, and there was bands that played there, and there was one particular night that was a big jam night,
Okay.
and we went out there all the time. And right next to there was a little strip mall that had a sushi bar in it called Welcome. It was actually
Had?
Yeah, it
Okay.
actually wasn't called Welcome, WELCOME. It's a Japanese place called Urakamu. Urakamu.
Right.
Welcome, Urakamu. URE dash KA dash MU. Urakamu. Which is an anglicized way for Japanese to say welcome.
Okay.
Urakamu. And that guy, the owner, was one of the top sushi chefs, only he wasn't all starstruck. He was just organic, really focused. We became friends because we were just a lot alike. We're not trying to make $1 million. We're trying to make it the best we could make it. And he was really like that. And then years later, he decided he was going to retire. So he had the main manager of the restaurant was going to buy it from him. So the manager guy took over the operation of it and was in the process of purchasing it from the founder, and he just ran it into the ground. So
no.
it crashed and burned. And then years ago, I ran into the original owner at a grocery store in Little Tokyo, and he was with his wife, and we were like, "Ah, man, what's going on?" And he says, "Yeah, I took a break for a while. It was really a mess, and blah 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 blah. But I started a new one, and it's near between Reseda and Northridge, on Sherman Way and Woodley, I think. UER-KA-MU. So just look around the Woodland Hills area for sushi bar. And it's not really a traditional sushi bar where they have sushi chefs and a big lineup of them, and then they're all chopping away. It's more like a little intimate tapas bar kind of vibe.
Yeah.
He's the only chef.
Yeah.
He's coming up with these brilliant little concoctions that are sushis and tapas, little snacks, small plates and things. They're all fantastic, and they're reasonably priced. And he has a huge selection of sakis, and a nice selection of red wines and white wines. He's a big jazz guy, jazz fan. So he's got a really nice sound system, and he's like playing Ornette Coleman and all this stuff all the time. And
Yeah.
and what a place!
Ornette
What a
and
place!
sushi.
So if you need a place to go check out, not just the traditional sushi experience, but a little personalized, excellent service, excellent atmosphere, intimate environment, go check that place out. It's great. I know that the guy that was doing the exotic guitars, the Japanese guy that does the exotic
Yeah.
guitars.
All the exotic stuff.
Yeah, he hangs out there all the time. We're buddies.
Oh,
and
cool.
We run into each other there every once in a while.
Hey, I got Gary Davis. Is there?
You have the
Oh.
here we are. So yeah, what's his name? Toshi?
Oh, Kimmel. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also
Yeah, blanking on his last name.
I was just I was at the Kimmel show Thursday night.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. One of my buddies works for the show.
Oh.
So I went down and met him there, and we hung out in the green room during the show. Went up to, we didn't hang out in Jimmy's office, and Jimmy's out fishing this week, but we were hanging out in Jimmy's waiting room. And then we went and hit the bars in Hollywood.
Huh.
Actually went to Musso and Frank's. Do you know that place?
Yeah, man. My
100
mom.
year old.
Yeah, my mom loves that place.
Oh,
We took
yeah.
her. We took her there. We didn't go to the restaurant part. We went around to the bar part,
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
and she really got off on the bartenders with the
Oh, they do it
The-
up. It's
the bow
like
tie.
1947 in there.
Yeah,
All
and,
the time.
And she has her favorite drink from some
The Gibson with the onion.
no. I'll have to have Nico-chan remind me of what the drink is that Mom liked at that place that they made perfectly, and they, of course, when they serve it, they just give her the total high
Oh,
bar.
they're so nice there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's a true throwback.
Yeah. So
Uh,
anyway, you went there.
Yeah, had dinner there. Went to the
Well, what?
oh,
Sazerac.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that's my favorite cocktail.
My mom goes, "Can you make a Sazerac?" And the guy's looking at her.
Yeah, yeah, that's my favorite. We went to this bar called Powerhouse because we got picklebacks there, and they make their own pickle juice.
Ah,
And then we wound up at Bordner's, which is like the oldest bar in Hollywood.
mm-hmm.
And so that was a fun night.
bar hopping in Hollywood is still good. It used to be really, really, really amazing, but it's still good.
It is, because the people who are kind of hanging out there as tourists don't dip in there.
Yeah.
When you dip into these, divey bars,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
you kind of gotta know a little
they
bit
look
what
they
you're
look
doing.
really skeevy at first, but then when you get in there, it's just like old home week,
Absolutely, yeah.
and everybody's friendly. And
Huge. So that was a really fun evening.
God, I went into the one right next to the Palladium. What's that one called? Bob's um, Bob's Blue Room.
I don't know that.
It's the one that's got all the caricatures of all the '40s actors on the
Oh,
wall.
okay, yeah.
Um, I heard some. I'm in there with some friends and we're just getting hammered, and there's some other people that are yakking away, and I heard of Alaska, and I went, "Well, I've been to Alaska," and the guy turns around, "You've been to Alaska? Where?" And all of a sudden, our 5 people and their 5 people are like all the best of friends. All of a sudden, we never even seen each other before, and we're all hanging out, talking about Alaska and the Alcan Highway and all kinds of crazy stories. We just like never heard from them again, spoke to them again after that. It was just
Yeah,
like,
those are
man,
fun,
you're a
fun
big party
times.
of old friends, aren't you? And like, no, we just met 5 minutes ago. Get out of here. But that's kind of the way those places were.
Hey, before I forget this, is there any way we can escalate Gary's thing here? He's emailed support about the PS100, and he hasn't heard back. What can he do to get his issue handled?
Okay. First, did you get an auto reply? If you've emailed support, you would get an auto reply that says, "We're busy, we'll get to your issue right away, just please be patient," and then a list of things that you can check out, like on various products that you can check out yourself to see if.
Okay.
So you'd get an auto reply with a whole bunch of information, links to videos that answer questions and all that. Things to just sort of get you over the initial, I'm having a problem with this, the videos that we make,
Okay.
the fuse
I'm probably
issues,
guilty.
the squeal videos.
Oh,
you know.
Gary's saying no auto reply.
Okay, if you didn't get an auto reply, we didn't get your email.
Ugh.
So people do things like when they type the email address in, they add an extra E to Freyett, Freyett all the time. We won't get that, and there are a lot of things that cause
Could it
us.
be a spam filter thing?
Well, the spam filter, yeah, some combinations of email addresses do occasionally get just kicked into the not the spam folder. Unusually, it goes into it goes directly into the deleted items folder.
Ugh.
So there's some glitch. Anyway,
Oh yeah, Gary's saying he's emailed before with really good response.
yeah,
Something's
there's some quirks in there, but
Sorry, dude.
just I'm sorry that you're having trouble getting through. Just refresh the email. Make sure that you email a direct, not through a website, not through a link. Go directly to just email support@freyett.com, F-R-Y-E-T-T-E, support@freyett.com. Don't go through a secondary link to send that to us. Send it directly out of your mailbox. And then just send a copy of the previous message that you sent, and you'll get a reply.
Okay.
And you'll probably get an auto reply. You'll know that we got it when you get an auto reply if you send it to that email address. If you send it through the Freyett web store, it might not come through that one. And
Okay.
by the way, now I'm glad you actually brought that up, because one of the things that we're doing, and this is what I was working with the team this morning on the Zoom call, is we're setting up a support forum.
Oh,
a brand new support forum, a full-blown
that's
Fryette
good.
forum for technical information, support, and having a couple of different administrators that are taking care of the easy stuff and forwarding the difficult stuff to the factory for handling and all of that. So we're setting up a whole new way to handle not only the support, not only make sure that we get the support requests and that you get immediate responses, but also have forums so that you've got a reliable backlog of information about your particular issue that other people have experienced and have already resolved.
sweet.
That's going to be happening next week, actually. That's going to be up and running.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
So sorry about that, Gary. We'll get it done.
All right, my eyes are already tired.
Yeah.
Which means it's glasses time. I can't hold out anymore. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to miss any here. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
All right, let's look at this one. Guitars and amps for life. Not a bad idea. Can you explain what the actual sonic differences are between the classic and the 2150 when pairing with Marshall style preamps? And he's saying that I guess most people prefer the 2150.
Not really. We just made more 2150s. A lot more.
Okay.
We made probably 10 2150s to every classic. It was the first one that came out.
Okay.
So we were already producing the 2150 for two or more years before the classic came out, and we only made a limited run of the classics. So they were more expensive and there were less of them. So that's why it seems like more people like the 2150, because there's just more out there. And sonic difference, they're basically the same general overall topology. What's different is the amount of power and that they use the 6550 power tube per channel, as opposed to the classics 4 EL34s per channel. So there's a behavioral difference in there that mostly has to do with just headroom.
Yeah.
Because the 2150 has more headroom, it's more transparent, where the classic has more little features and things that you could tweak to induce a little bit more saturation. So it didn't sound more saturated because it had EL34s, it had more saturation because it was designed to have more saturation. And then there was just some people that liked it because it had EL34s in it, and they didn't even know what difference that made.
It's one of those security blanket things.
Yeah, I think
Feels
so.
good to just, you know.
I think so, and I can tell you because
I like 34s.
I can tell you because when Dean DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots, when he's been using classic power amps forever, and then when he decided that he's it wasn't just him, the whole band decided they were spending way too much money shipping gear around for tours. So when he came to us and said, I need to shrink my rig down, first thing we did was, okay, well, we'll use the LX2s. But I was experimenting with an LX2 with EL34s in it just for our internal information,
Yes.
because we knew people were going to ask, why don't you make an LX2 with EL34s? So
And you want to have a real answer.
yeah, so
right?
we made one.
Yeah, okay.
And then we set them side by side with all the
think I
other
remember
power
you
amps.
telling me about
Yeah, I
this,
think
yeah.
you were in on part of that. And then the team all comes in and listen to it and go, okay, wait a minute, which one is which again? And that was kind of like the whole point of that exercise. But
That's fun.
because it was Dean and because he is so micro-focused on all the aspects of his gear that he's used to using and doesn't like changing that, we brought the test unit that had the 34s in it, figuring that he would maybe feel like that was more home turf.
Yeah.
Well, we get it all set up, and he's like going, yeah, this is like really it, man. I can't believe how good this is, you know, and how small it is, and blah, blah, blah. And the next day, the guitar tech calls, and he goes, is there any way that we can get a
This is
clear,
Bruce.
yeah, a clearer bottom end out of it? And I'm like, well, I mean, how much more clearer does it need to be? I mean, we're talking about, we're really picking fly shit out of pepper here now. And they're like, yeah, well, you know. So we took the EL34 one back and just gave him a stock one. And he goes, you guys are fucking geniuses. That's the right amount of bottom that I needed. And it
Yeah.
wasn't really because it had 6L6s in it. It's because the coupling capacitors load differently, feeding off the phase inverter, feeding the power tubes. They load a little differently. So the low end roll off has a slightly different profile because of that.
Huh.
And the feedback. The feedback characteristic, because the EL34s have a little bit more natural transconductance, they have a little bit more gain compared to 6L6s. That means that the LX2 with EL34s in it actually has more negative feedback, which kind of squishes the sound a little
Right.
bit.
That's what I would think. It's going
Where
to
the
round things off
6L6s
just a little
have
bit.
a little less gain, a little less transconductance, so that the negative feedback network actually feeds back less, and that opens up the whole thing. That's pretty
the
much
transients are going to be a little.
yeah, that's pretty much why
more
people think
punchy.
that 6L6s sound different than EL34s. It's not that they sound different, it's just that how they react in the circuit and how all the parts of the circuit react to the changes in the gain structure.
And
of
I've
the
asked this
tube.
question before, but I'm going to ask it again. When you are working with those different materials, can you negate those behaviors in a sense, like get the EL34s to behave more like a 6L6, just the way, you know, through design,
Yeah.
and vice versa?
Yeah,
That's what I thought you'd been saying.
yeah.
But
But
that's
then it
normally
becomes-
not the aim, so
Well,
people
then
don't do that.
then it becomes what is more practical? What is a more practical execution? To do it this way, where everything just kind of falls into place, or to go, you know, jigger something in to behave a different way so that people will perceive it. That gets more complicated and not always fruitful.
I only figured you'd know it because you would know whether that was a fact because you're nerdy enough to have tried it just for your own edification. That's why I was asking. I wouldn't think you would necessarily do that simply. I mean, why would you do that? Other than maybe during a tube shortage or something. Like we can't get EL34s anymore. We need an amplifier that behaves that way.
Yeah, well, to me, sometimes it's just we're going along. We're learning and relearning things all the time about how we do the things we do. Everybody does that. Guitar players do that. You do that. I know you do. You get familiar with a new guitar or a different pickup, or even just changing the strings. You go back, refresh a little bit, or you get a gig that you got to get your chops together for, something like that. You reacquaint yourself, or you reacclimate yourself to a certain thing, and you give yourself permission to do that because you're in a different space. And you know what? I think what I would like to do today is just see if I can pull anything loose up there that maybe got stuck. And then you find out that no, everything that I felt about this is firmly locked in place. And then on another day, you know, if I just do this, and like, I like that. I didn't used to like that, but I like that now. And
It's finding new and exciting ways to make the same mistakes.
yeah. We sent a Deliverance 2 Plus to Anthony Trug.
Oh, awesome.
That he'd been wanting to check out one for a long time. And he's got a D120, a Series 1.
Oh, okay. How long has he had it?
Oh, God.
10 years
Yeah.
at least?
Yeah. And as far as far as he's concerned, it's the greatest thing since, you know, sliced bread or whatever. But I get a text. Wow, just wow. That was it. That's all he said. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I, I I I know the guy, but he's like a former metal player guy. He still has a metal band that they go out and
Yeah.
tour every once
Yeah.
in a while.
Yeah.
But he's really kind of ventured into jazz, and he's plays the Strat more often than he used to, and he
Yeah.
kind of he's not really a blues player, but he's just got he plays bluesy chops on a Strat with a little hint of metal in it. That he's just got a unique take and a unique approach. And he goes, fuck all these people that say you can't play a Strat into a deliverance, you know. Check this out. And he plays this thing, and it's like, wow, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, we all do this. We all do this thing where
What's happening?
we do these resets.
Uh-oh.
And they're instructional, and you learn things, and you find it's sort of a reset. I like where this is at. This could move this way a little bit. This could move that way a little bit. Do we need to move it? Did anybody ask us to move it? I don't recall asking you to do that. It was perfectly fine the way it was. Why would you do that? Now my whole life is upside down. I've got to re-examine everything I do because you just decided. Well, I mean, sometimes making little changes like that in an amplifier, people get fucking upset. I didn't give you permission to advance
I think
the development of your product that I bought. It's very funny. I mean,
I don't.
That's what I kind of love about the industry
Yeah.
is the people that use our stuff and are out there players. We're the same kind of people. So they of course feel like, you know, I need to tell those guys that they're like off base on this. And of course we'll listen, but sometimes it cracks me up how far some people take it, the presumptuous of it. You know, it's just presumptuousness of it well, it's charming. Let me just say that it's cute.
As Fishbone said, give a monkey a brain, and he'll swear he's the center of the universe.
Oh, and I love it when people say, "Oh, you're a genius, man," and I just my favorite comeback is the Einstein quote. The difference between genius and sanity is that insanity has no limitations.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I think you talked the differences between the classic and the
I think
2050.
What do we got here? Some kind of
Is Nico-chan from Japan? Why, yes, Nico-chan is from Japan. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. I want to know the answer to this. From Purposeful Porpoise. Why does my brown face with bias trim go nuts when I try variacing it too low? I guess it's not necessarily yeah, what does go nuts mean?
yeah.
That would be helpful.
In general,
What would go nuts? What
well-
would typically go nuts, do you think?
well, when you variac down any amplifier, you're turning down all the voltages, including the heater voltages.
What the heck is this, by the way?
Well, why don't you just try it and find out because it's great.
Looks like marmalade.
That's what it are.
Oh, awesome.
See, I'm gonna go a little sideways like always on this because you mentioned bias trim. And the bias trim thing itself is a little bit of a misnomer. And a lot of people don't really know this, why the tremolo circuit in one particular brand of series of Fender amps, the brown face ones, the tremolo oscillator in it is kind of sloppy.
Okay.
when you turn it on, it would kind of roll on. It didn't just come hard on.
Wait a minute, is that the one Brown amp that had that? Is that what I'm thinking of? What is that one?
Yeah.
Oh man, because I owned that amp for about 6 months, and it almost sounds like a Univibe.
Yeah.
That trem, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's got a couple of stages, and there's some phase shift in there
Yeah.
because it's got 2 stages in
Oh, I
series.
love that amp.
It's not because it's designed to be a phase shifter. It's just designed to be a really intense tremolo, to really get the tremolo to be intense. But in the process, there's a little unintended phase shift that happens because of the coupling caps that connect the tremolo to the preamp stage where the tremoloing is done.
Okay.
And because of that, it's a more cumbersome circuit design. It takes a little time for the tremolo oscillator
It's so unique.
to activate, and it kind of rolls on.
Yeah. And it sits
But-
between a tremolo and
Yeah.
a Univibe.
Yeah. And when you turn it off, it goes right
Yeah.
off. The reason it goes right off is because it's forced to. In other words, it's kind of an unwieldy circuit, and it's how the cathode is biased in the oscillator determines how stable the circuit is. And some of those early tremolo circuits, the circuit wasn't really stable. Sometimes the tremolo wouldn't start.
What do you mean by it wasn't stable? What does that mean?
Sometimes the tremolo oscillator wouldn't start oscillating it. Like if the preamp tube that was used in that circuit didn't have enough gain, it wouldn't start oscillating. You maybe had to turn it on and off a couple of
No
times.
kidding. Huh. I've never run into that. I didn't know that.
And it was very sensitive about which capacitors were used in it and all these kinds of things.
Hmm.
One of the things is that you had to kick it to get it to start. And one of the ways you did that was to feed some negative voltage from the bias circuit into it.
Oh, you didn't mean like legitimately kick your
Well, that was a
amplifier.
kick. It was like a
So
negative
didn't,
DC
that
voltage.
amp didn't have reverb, so you could kick it and it
But
wouldn't
people,
crash.
people that don't really know much about electronic circuits, they would see this circuit path from the tremolo circuit to the bias circuit and assume from that the tremolo was tremoloing the bias feeding the power tubes. That
Okay.
isn't what it was really doing. It was taking some negative bias voltage from the bias circuit to kick the tremolo oscillator into operation. So there's that. Now, I go into that whole extreme because when you variac, now you introduce the variac, you turn down all of the voltages, the plate voltages, the negative bias voltage, and the filament voltage for the preamp tubes. All those voltages get turned down when you turn down a variac. Now the tremolo circuit is really screwed up because it hasn't got enough electrons flowing off the cathode to start out properly. It hasn't got enough negative bias voltage to kick it, to turn it on, or to get it to snap turn off. And then it just so happens that the variac thing works pretty well in a Marshall amp, but it doesn't work across the board really nicely for everything.
Interesting.
It just happens to be a recipe that works in this sort of narrow sort of confluence of issues.
So would
Hey,
you
Wayne.
say...
I hope you're doing great. I'm really glad you're here.
Oh, Wayne. Dude. I'm,
You just did a gig somewhere, didn't you?
Oh, I'm sure Wayne's a gigging man. Okay. So I'm thinking there's that particular brown face amp, and was it a concert? Am I remembering that right? Was it the Brown concert that had that?
I thought it was a Vibrolux.
Was it? I don't remember. I just know that I owned one at one point. So Purposeful Porpoise is saying their brown face with that trem circuit behaves goofily when it's being variac down. But I think what you're saying is just essentially all those Fenders aren't really great with that variac recipe. It's just not.
A tube tremolo oscillator is just it's really interesting. They all, you know, I always used to hear this when I was doing mods a long time ago. Somebody go, can you make the tremolo more intense, or can I get it to go slower or faster?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, if you tweaked it so that it would go slower, then the high speed side would be slower too. You couldn't just turn the bottom, the low speed the low speed speed
Yeah.
down without affecting the high speed. What you did was you shifted the whole speed range.
It's
either
not
this-
like a Leslie cabinet with, you know,
Right.
two different.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You had the specific speed range from the left position of the knob to the right position of the knob. And if you changed it so that the low speed was slower, the high speed was also slower too. If you
Right.
changed it so the high speed was faster, the low speed wouldn't go as slow. And in some cases, if you change the capacitor's values or the capacitor and resistor values to get different oscillator characteristics, sometimes it would just stop. They were not reliable circuits, and that's why later on when op-amp oscillators came into vogue, just most manufacturers just jumped on those because they're stable, they're independent of the operating voltages of all the other tubes, and they have a much wider range of permissible operations, so you could just do much more with them. But there's just, there's something about it just kind of being, you know, my grandmother had a Model A, and when I was a kid and visited her during the summer out in the mountains, and she'd go into town to go grocery shopping, we'd be driving along and the car started kind of acting like this, and she reaches under the driver, the bench seat, because there's a bench seat, right? She reaches under the seat and pulls out this big crescent wrench and goes and pops open the hood and goes in there and goes, and tightens up a few bolts, and then gets back in, and away we would go. So that's kind of like the level of the tremolo circuit. It was very hands-on. You had to just go manage them and babysit them.
All right. We're talking deliverance here. I just couldn't get over with my D120 2019 master build. That would have been a first edition, a Series 1, I think, because the Series 2 came out in 21. With the D120 Mark II Plus coming up, I'm just wondering if mine has, I guess, the Mark II circuit update rather than the feature. I think they're talking about the Series 2? Oh, I think what the question is whether that amp that they had built in 2019 was essentially a Series 2, or if it was a Series 1.
Unless it said Series 2 on the front of it, it was a Series 1.
Okay. So you weren't like covertly making some Series 2s before they officially debuted.
No, because it was the Series 1. Series 1 didn't have an effects loop in it.
Right.
So if you got a Series 1, if you got a master built, you could have got it with an add-on effects loop.
Mm-hmm.
We make a kit for
Yeah.
guys that have older deliverances. If they want a loop in it, there's a kit you can buy to put it in.
Yeah.
So people that wanted that would be an add-on. But the Series 2 had some other circuit changes, and it had the effects loop incorporated into the board design.
And it also had the solo knob, so that's a clear giveaway.
The solo knob was the biggest difference.
Yeah. So you can tell that like looking at the front panel. So okay. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, this is weird because graphite and cigars throughout this is Joe getting lemongrass. I think what they're alluding to, if I remember right, is like in our first season or something, we were drinking something and I was pulling out goofy notes on something we were drinking. I think that's what you're referring to. Am I right? Because I kind of remember that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do too. I do
And if
too.
that's what it is, cheers.
Yeah.
There's, yes, lemongrass and daffodil, wouldn't you say?
I remember that. Hey, good on you for like, okay.
Good callback.
Yeah, you're hardcore,
Yeah,
dude. Sorry
Absolutely.
about that. So, when did your wife leave you again? Tell me. Sorry,
That's not nice.
couldn't be helped.
Um, oh.
Is the effects loop buffered? Are you referring to the
Well,
deliverance?
You're not gonna like this, but I'm popping.
Well,
it up
whenever
because it's a
we do an
question.
effects loop, whenever we do an effects loop, it either has a buffer or it either has a buffer for the send and the return, or just the return and not the send, because what you're asking is if the effects loop is properly conditioned so that when you run it out of the amp and back in, it isn't affected. Its sonic performance isn't affected by what you plug into it. You don't necessarily have to have a buffer to do that. You just have to have a properly designed effects loop circuit in the first place. And if you don't, if you're patching an effects loop into an amp that didn't have it before, then you need buffers, because you have to make these compensations for the input and output impedance, the send and return impedance. You have to compensate for that so that it will work. But when we do, for example, in the power station has a return buffer, which isn't really serving as a buffer. It's serving as a return gain stage to compensate for the gain that is deducted from the send, so that you can drop the level down low enough to
Sure.
get it through a pedal. Then you have to bring it back up to
Yeah.
line level so it drives the power. It's like locks, the Panama Canal
Yeah,
locks.
yeah.
You need to get from the lake level to the ocean level, or if you're going the other direction, you need to go back.
Right.
That's what you're really trying to do with the effects loop. And sometimes you can do that compensation. In the case of the power station, the effects send does not have a buffer. It has a level switch that gives you a hot level or a low level, but it doesn't go through a buffer first in order to do that. Because the impedance is already so low in that stage that whether the level switch is set high or low, it's still at a low impedance source level to where it isn't impacted by plugging in effects into it and causing frequency losses. So all the return buffer is doing is compensating for whether the send level is hot and you need to pat it down for the pedal, or whether the send level is low and you need to amplify it back so that it will drive the power amp stage of the power station adequately. So, okay,
All right.
hope you got all that.
You probably don't want to talk about this, but I'm popping it up anyway.
Let's do it. Yeah, the GPDI is returning. I have spoke.
There, you announced it.
Well, I mean,
Boomer.
it's not like
Steve has spoken.
yeah, it's not like no, it's not. It's the only difference between saying it's on the way. It is returning. Everybody, we've been saying for a long time, it is coming back. The only thing that we've been holding back on is just getting certain specialized parts done right, done the same way every time, all those kinds of things.
I think.
That thing got the whole production process of the GPDI got entirely ruptured by COVID.
Oh, well, I was thinking,
That thing was half done when COVID came around.
but you brought it to me basically done a year ago.
A year
last
ago.
summer to my
Yeah.
studio. And we sat there like, all right, let's go through this.
Yeah, we
Let's
went all through it.
Yeah.
And we validated everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then we released it to production, and then
It was like, here it comes, because I'm excited about it as well,
you know,
guys.
and when we do a production, the first thing that we do before we actually go do the full blown thing is we validate every physical part to make sure that they're made right.
Yeah.
And we keep getting, like the front panel or the chassis top cover, it's just like, this part doesn't fit on this part. Why are you even sending me a sample? These parts don't go together. Oh, well, you know, suppliers are weird. You think I'm weird? Suppliers are weird. They come up with the most improbable excuses for why they ignored an engineering drawing and sent you the wrong thing, knowing how do I say this? There's no nice way to say this. It's like, you know, some people just love being punished. They love being abused. It seems that way to me. Because
Sadomasochists.
if our drawings, our engineering drawings are fucking impeccable. They're accurate down to a 1,000th of an inch accuracy, where in manufacturing 5,000ths, between 3 and 5,000ths is typical, but we do it down to 1,000th of an inch. The fit, how everything is supposed to fit together, down to 1,000th of an inch on the drawings, knowing that the machinery can't do that in production.
Oh.
But we don't do it at 10,000ths of an inch, because if you give them leeway, then it'll end up being 15,000ths of an inch off.
Right.
So
right.
the drawings are tight. So they don't have any wiggle room. They have to come back and say, this part physically can't be made with 1,000th of an inch tolerance. And we go, yeah, we know that. And then they have to say what their typical tolerance is. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where we find out, are they even capable of operating at those tolerances? Because if they're not, then we'll have to say to them, okay, that's fine. We have another supplier that can do it. Thank you very much for your bid.
I have to throw this up from Gary along those lines. That's hilarious.
Tell the customers to try what?
To try solutions he knew wouldn't work, to buy himself time to find a real
Yeah, I mean, that's a
solution.
real thing. I mean, in California, it's a real huge thing. And you talk to any engineering guy, and when they get it close enough to they think it can actually be produced by sheet metal fabricators in California, the standard phrase is it's good enough for government work. Because they're all government contractors. They're making stuff for Lockheed, they're making stuff for Boeing.
Yeah.
And if it's a government contract, the book that the government gives you is an encyclopedia on the specifications for a coffee cup, for crying out loud, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you know how much tolerance, how many feet off the ground it has. You can drop it before it's actually supposed to break. If 5 feet, if it breaks at 3 feet, it doesn't pass. You know, all these kind of things. But we're pretty hardcore about our drawings. All of our drawings are done in CAD. They're done in 3D, so we can look, zoom in and look and see a couple of pieces of metal going together and where the flaws are. And our CAD engineer will come and say, you know, you asked for a pretty extraordinary tolerance here that most shops aren't going to be able to accomplish. And I'll say, okay, then I want you to apply reasonable engineering, manufacturing tolerances to that aspect of the design. How about the rest of it? Oh no, the rest of it's fine. There's just this one real bend here, this one little bend here that's going to be too tight of a fit, and they're not going to be able to accomplish that consistently. We need to open the tolerances up a little bit to make it producible.
Yeah.
And this is what engineers do. Engineers go and make impossible to produce parts, and then they rely on the vendors to push back and say, that's not a producible part. You know what you really want to do is this, and if you want this much tolerance, we should change this bend to this.
But let's start there.
But let's start there
And work our way to what's
See,
possible.
That way, I force them out. It's just like I smoke them out.
You're doing the David Lee Roth Brown M&Ms thing.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see who's paying attention.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes that's how you establish a rapport with these people, is they won't talk to you because they think you're just some dumb guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But if
And
you
then
come
you go,
in swinging,
this guy knows what he's fucking talking about. I better get on the
Yeah.
phone with him because that's not producible in production. Okay, all right.
yeah,
What's your solution? And if they go, well, we could try. No. The next guy will go, what's your solution? We take this radius and we just soften it like a couple of degrees and then open up the tolerance 0.02 of an inch in your home free. Fine, that's the answer I'm looking for. So that's, how did we get on that subject?
talking about announcing the GPDI.
Right,
and how it
so
got delayed.
we just got, in January at the NAMM show, the sheet metal supplier came to us with the chassis and the front panel for the GPDI. Here's the sample. Thank you very much. Why did you change the front panel?
Oh,
You could see it instantly. He goes, huh? So why'd you change the front panel? Okay, this is going to go really deep. It's going to be fast, but it's going to be deep. The front panel on the power station and on the GPDI, or on the PLIR and the GPDI, they're all aluminum extrusions. They're these square C-shaped extrusions. And we buy a lot of this extrusion at that exact size that we use for the Power Station 100, the Power Station 2, the PLIR, and the GPDI.
okay.
The only difference is that they're longer and they are shorter and they have different holes in them. But it's an extrusion. It's not a flat piece of aluminum bent into a C.
Right.
It's squeezed through a little cookie press
Yeah.
into a
It's
C.
like a mold. Yeah.
Yeah. And the difference is the bend, the flange on the top and the flange on the bottom and the front surface, those are all 90-degree angles, sharp angles. They aren't radiused bends.
Right. It doesn't
So
look
as soon
like
as
a
I look
bend.
at it, I look at the front panel and the top and bottom are radius, which means it's bent out of flat stock. In order for him to do that, the mounting holes that screw the top and the bottom of the panel into the chassis
Yeah.
had to move 50 thousandths of an inch
Everything's toast.
to add clearance because of the radius of the bend on the panels. And that means that he changed everything about the drawings to produce this proof article. It's called the first article. The proof sample that I'm supposed to approve production off of. I can't approve this
Without
for
asking.
production.
Without
You
even
didn't. He goes,
consulting.
what's wrong with it? I said, well, besides the fact that it doesn't match the drawing, what else do you want me to say? I could go through and tell you each thing that I can see that you changed off of the drawing, but you already knew that. You were just trying to push it past me. You're the engineer. Did you think you were going to slide that by me? Okay, well, we'll get you another first article right away. You know.
Ooh.
So that was January, and back and forth about other issues. We got a part that the holes that the pots go into weren't the right diameter. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. I'm just explaining stuff that no other manufacturer really wants to discuss, because to them, it's just the reason that I'm gonna go home at 5 o'clock, because if I stay here till 6, I'm gonna just shoot myself in the head, because I give up. I just got an email from the supplier saying he's gonna send the new first article. It is now, what? End of July?
August for
Yeah.
all intents and purposes.
Yeah, after all this back and forth and all the other stuff that we've been going through with the other products, we finally circle back to this and, okay, I'm sending you the first article. The front panel doesn't exactly fit on the rest of the chassis, but you'll be able to see it and you can approve it from that. And I'm like going, why are you even going to bother sending me the part? You're just going to get it back as a reject.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to send me that sample. I want you to send me photographs and make red circles around the parts that you say are potentially problematic fit areas or something. I need to know what you're talking about. You can't tell me I'm going to send you what you asked me to make you, but not quite, but I'm not going to tell you why it's not quite.
Yeah.
It's constant, guys. It's constant. This is the thing. We've been going through this since the company first started. People used to tell me, getting stuff manufactured. Manufacturing is a bitch, first of all, but getting stuff manufactured in California is practically impossible. But it's not just California. I mean, we've dealt with sheet metal fabricators in the Midwest, on the East Coast, in Northern California, in offshore. Everyone, no matter where it is, somebody's always trying to slip shit past you. And there's a lot of product out there where that's just the name of the game. It's a big game. They'll quote you a price, and it's usually lower than they can afford to make it for, but they're trying to get the bid.
Yes.
It's called lowballing.
Yeah.
So they lowball you on the price that they're going to charge you to make this part, and then they do their damnedest to try to make it cheaper and hope you don't notice. And,
Wow. Wow.
I'm way too old and cranky and impossible to deal with for that shit to fly. So that's what causes these extended delays. And with more and more things going on in our little circle of madness, more products being developed, more suppliers that we're trying to find better suppliers that are more conscientious. And I know how to talk to suppliers more effectively than I used to. So I'll just tell them right in front, don't even try pushing shit past me. I've got guys that are the equivalent of your engineering guys on your side. I got guys just as good as you. We're going to find anything that you try to slip past us. So don't even waste your time and energy on this. Please, I beg you. If you're gonna bid. But if you think you're gonna slip shit past us, don't even waste our time, okay? There's a lot of other suckers out there that you can do that to. It ain't us. And I've rarely had anybody go, okay, well, thanks for the opportunity anyway, and walk away. I haven't had anybody do that, maybe one time.
Wow.
Usually they go, yeah, I understand. And then they try it anyway because it's in their DNA to do that. They've been doing it so long that they think, he'll never say this. And here you go, Steve. No. They just, they're shocked. You know how many times people have tried that on me, dude? It's just like, all right.
Wow. I know the answer to this, but
Okay.
we're going to talk about it anyway. Ha ha! You see it?
The Randall Smith route?
No.
Oh, okay. Although
Is
Brendan,
that
I
the
do
new
like that.
Pitbull Ultra Lead back there?
I'm not even. Don't know what you're talking about. No, there's no ultra lead here. What else we got?
The one above your head?
That is a 1996 ultra lead.
With chrome-plated chassis.
When you see the new ultra lead, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to flip out and go, oh my God, or you're going to be really pissed. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's a good teaser. That's a good teaser. And we're off that. That's a good one.
No, hey, Brendan, thanks. I appreciate that. No. Are you kidding? That's the fun part. I know I'm bitching and whining and being cranky about all that, but
Are you talking about
Brendan
this?
saying retiring from dealing with all the headaches of running your business. No,
Oh.
I chose this life because it was superior to sitting in an environment where I had no control over everything and having shit pushed down my throat all the time. Absolutely not. No.
Life is full of hassle.
Well, you know, Randall Smith is
Choose the grade of hassle.
Randall
That's the best
is
you can
Randall
do.
is 5 years older than me, and he worked his ass off, and he got an offer he couldn't refuse, and more power to him. I'm not. I've got too much piss and vinegar in me to stop right at this moment. So, but I'll keep you posted.
Scott wants to know when I'm going to tell everybody about my butt stuff.
Where are we?
We did OCD butt stuff once upon a time. I don't have any butt stuff to report.
We don't have any fresh butt stuff, I don't think.
No fresh colonoscopy
Well,
stuff.
well, now that you mention
I'm all
it,
out.
now that you mention it, yeah,
Did you go in?
I've made an appointment.
Oh, you're going in.
Yeah, so I'll have some butt stuff.
I need to go in. Wait, in 2 years. I went in early because my mom unfortunately passed away from colon cancer, and so I went in younger than most people. And it was funny. I was in there and I had people saying, "You look like," I could tell they were sort of thinking like the only reason you would be in here is if you something bad was going on and you're getting checked on. I'm like, no, it's just, you know, what's the word when there's nothing wrong and you're just trying to stay ahead of things? What's that word? It's you do it when
Proactive?
it's not that. It's insurance companies limit the amount of these that you can do. Preventative, yes, thank you, Scott.
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
preventative maintenance.
yeah. So I went in
Like doing a cab job.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Thanks, guys. So yeah, I had an early colonoscopy and had zilch going on, and they said come back in 10 years. So that'll be in 2 years.
You know, I found out what's interesting is when you get a colonoscopy done, if they find a polyp that is sort of outside of what's considered a normal range, well, they remove them because they could grow into cancerous tissues.
That's preventative.
That's preventative. But in the area where they removed a big one, they tattoo that area. So that's an area that they want to come back and look at specifically later.
Yes.
So they mark it.
Oh yeah, they tattoo it in
They
there.
tattoo it
I
in
remember.
there.
Yeah.
And
Erica was talking
yeah,
about that.
and she was talking about that, and I'm like, and I didn't understand that it was for that specific reason. I just thought that they were putting a marker in there, like when you get your oil change, they put the little sticker on there so you know when to get the next one. I thought that's what that was, and no, this
It
doctor.
wasn't Dr. Roberts was here.
Yeah, right. Well, he explained to me that so they're not just going in there and marking that, you know, like
You had a colonoscopy
like,
on April
yeah,
2nd.
Joe was
20
here or
20
something like that, and he goes, and he kind of like smirked and chuckled a little bit. He goes, well, you know, I just heard about a woman that sued a doctor that had given her some kind of a vaginal examination and tattooed his initials inside her, and she sued that shit out of him and got like $5 million settlement.
Wait a minute. There was no medical reason for doing this, and he did this?
Yeah, he was doing an examination, but he tattooed his initials inside her. I went, get out of here! And he's just like, not true story, dude. And I'm like, oh my God.
People are animals.
Yeah, people are animals.
Okay. Do you want to talk about weed, Steve?
I don't know shit about weed.
Yeah, I really don't either. Indica or sativa?
Where is that?
It's on the screen. Brendan wants you to talk about weed.
No.
You don't smoke the jazz cigarettes?
No.
Me neither. I do sleep gummies occasionally, just to help keep me down and asleep, but
No, I got all that out of my system by the time I graduated from high school.
yeah.
Yeah, I did have
Brendan's joking. Anyway. Okay. Trying to take everybody at face value on
Hey,
their-
you know, yeah. Well, I got to tell my story that the one time that
Oh, thanks, Brendan. Thanks.
because it's just way too strong. And how I know that is in '83, I was working in a repair shop, and there was a guy, a keyboard tech there at the place I worked at that was a weed dealer, and he had that like killer brainstem severing shit that he would.
Maui Wowie.
Yeah, he'd smoke it every day at noon, and he would call tech break. He would go tech break, and everybody that wanted to get high with him would run into his room and take a hit. And I
Good
was
Lord.
like, no, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. The one time I did it, I went, that wasn't worth it. I just mostly coughed. And then I woke up at home in bed, and the sun was up, and it was a beautiful day. And I went, where am I? What time is it? And I looked at the clock. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what? I don't remember anything after like noon the previous day. And I went, oh well, I feel great. Got dressed, went outside to get on my motorcycle to go to work, and my bike was gone.
Oh, that's this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
This is good.
And I was close enough to work that I could walk. So I walked to work, and my motorcycle was parked in front of the shop that I worked at, which means I had to walk by it when I left. So, and I went in and I go, what happened? He goes, well, after the tech break, you went in your room for a few minutes, and then you went, fuck it. You just said, fuck it, and you left. So I went to my shop area, and there was a amp that I was working on that was left open. My soldering iron was on, my scope was on, everything was on. Like I just dropped my tools in the middle of a repair operation and left.
Exclaimed,
I walked
"Fuck
right
it,"
past
and-
my motorcycle and walked home and went to bed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I woke up at 8 o'clock the next morning. And I went, my motorcycle's been stolen, fuck.
It's pretty great. Like somewhere deep down,
That was the
you
last
have the
time I-
wherewithal to know that I shouldn't hop on my bike.
I don't even know if I saw it. I don't know. All I know is that
But
was
you
the last
didn't,
time I ever.
and that was a good idea.
Yeah, that was my last time I ever smoked weed.
Yeah. Okay, this is nice. This is a great callback too. Ready?
Yep.
I'm feeling like we haven't been chugging nostalgia tonight. Remember that phrase?
Mm-hmm.
I believe this should say, will the new Ultra Lead be a turbocharged 5150? That's a couple different callbacks right there.
Yeah, very good.
Nice one.
Very good. Kudos, Pillify.
Salute.
Yeah, chugging nostalgia was kind of a rant on the everything old is better shtick.
Let's not do new things. Let's do all the old things again. And
Yeah,
Again, and again and again.
You know, I mean, one of the new engineering guys that we've got on our team now watches this show, and he contacted me because he felt like you are like the only amp company that I am aware of in the marketplace right now that is carving out your own individual unique niche that nobody else seems to be in that area, that particular area where you're exploring new ideas. And I'm really interested in that. And he sends his resume, which was a very impressive resume, and says, I want to be part of your team. You guys sound like you're having a lot of fun. And we had a Zoom meeting, and the guy was like legit. So he's on our team now. So yeah, I have the Malcontents to thank for that.
That's
The
awesome.
show, because we reached Herbert. Now that's a callback some of you may or may not figure out, but okay.
Well, I know that the new Ultra Lead is not chugging nostalgia. And it will not be a turbocharged 5150. I know enough about it to be able to say that.
Yeah, and it's not gonna displace the 5150 either, because the 5150 vibe, that's a thing that certain people just want,
It already exists.
and it already exists.
And that's not what they're really asking. That was
That's
just
true,
a
that's
funny
true,
thing.
that's true.
Yeah, not taking it, literally. That was great callbacks.
Actually, Mark Hamstra, good question.
Wait, there's one. You want me to grab Mark's, and then we're gonna.
You wanna get one before that first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Corey asked. I think there's a question. Does a smaller box D30 make sense? Oh, like what Soldano did with the SLO 30, or does it fly in the face of what the Deliverance is all about? That's a good question.
Yeah, and it may not. It may not fly in the face of what the Deliverance is about. What the Deliverance is about is a raw, old school playing experience. There's a 60 and a 120, and
In their heads.
their heads, and the 120's reason to exist is that it's just got the gorilla footprint. It's got the Godzilla footprint, the thing that no smaller powered amp does.
Right.
And even attenuated, it has that gorilla footprint.
We've done that.
We've done that.
120 and the 60.
And a
Like
60.
let's.
We took a 60 and a 120 and attenuated both of them, and we took a 60 and set it next to a 120 attenuated with the 60 wide open,
Yep.
and set the 120 at the same volume level so that they're about equally ferocious, and the 120 still had a thing that the 60
It's just
didn't have.
wide and open.
Now,
and
in the old Series 1 Deliverances, they definitely have a different, it was character. The 60 was always angrier sounding than the 120, partly because the phase inverter was designed a little differently, and partly because one just had more power. So in the Series 2 and 2 Plus, they have exactly the same phase inverter stage in both of them. And so now the only difference is just brute power. And still,
It's there.
the
It's
D60
there.
has, they converge a little more. They're closer together now than they were before, but still, the 60 is angrier, and the 120 has got a bigger steel plate.
Would you say
in the
it's
boot.
angrier?
I would say it's more raw. I'll say that. The 120 has the bigger, the more torque on the bottom. But it's more subtle. You have to really push them up.
Yeah, and I think probably if you didn't have them both in the same room to A/B them, you're like, it's a fog and Deliverance.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
You know?
That's the thing is, you've got a preamp, you have a phase inverter, you have power tubes, and then you have the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So if if there are less power tubes producing less power into smaller transformers, that means the tendency is to try to turn the volume up more to get more power, but you can only get so much more power, which means you're going to hear the phase inverter saturation more than you will in the 120, because the 120
It's not
can
running
keep
into that.
smacking you in the forehead a little longer.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So-
hear it mainly as that compression kind of character between the two.
Yeah, the 60 compresses faster.
And the 120 just retains that.
Yeah.
It's just open.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the big thing. That's a big reason why we did the PS100, because the guys that are true dyed-in-the-wool 100-watt amp guys that have like a JMP with no master volume on it, that are used to that thwack, gunk,
Yeah.
gunk. Having that come out of the PS2 at 50 watts sounds good, but it's not quite that in between where I just want to compete with the drummer and the bass player a little more.
Yeah.
And that's where the 100 comes in,
Yeah.
and where you feel that. You feel
Well, when
that
you bang on the strings,
Yeah.
it's that same transient as the drummer hitting the snare.
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
it's not I mean, it's musical as hell, but it's kind of not compressing.
Right.
It's BAM!
Yeah, right in your
Uh-huh.
face, right
Yeah,
in your face.
I can do that too.
And that thrills me. I just love that difference. So yeah.
Yeah.
But can that be brought to fruition in a 30 watt, 20 to 30 watt platform? Sure. It's not gonna drive a motorcycle boot between your legs the way a bigger amp is, but it's still gonna give you the essence, the overall recipe in the proper balance. And that's the thing, is if you get it in the proper balance, you can make an output transformer that will have a dynamic characteristic that will belie the actual output of the amp. And the Memphis amp is a perfect example of that. People who go, that's a 30 watt amp? That sounds like a 50 watt head. That's not 30, that's 50. And then it had to switch so that you could switch it down to 18 watts.
Oh yeah.
And like, now that sounds closer to 30. It's just because the transformers were bigger. And so you hear less transformer compression because
Yeah.
they have more capacity to deliver that whole range to the speakers.
Yeah.
That was always me just going, I don't want to hear all that compression. So I would think, I'm going to make an amplifier for people that don't like loud amplifiers. And then I would make it, and then I go, it's a little bit, I've conceded too much
Interesting.
to the outside influence because it's losing some of its articulation and dynamic attack. And I don't think that that's going to sound good with a drummer and a bass player. So I would ratchet it up, and then I'd have somebody come in and go, play an E chord on that. And God, how much power is this? This is loud. To me, it was like anemic. I'm just so used to I want that big fist in my chest.
You're coming from high watt land
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's your reference.
Yeah,
Not that many people out there are coming from that place.
In my journey, I've discovered how many guitar players are just fucking chicken shits when it comes to power, or sensitive. They have really sensitive ears.
Well, I mean, I only really learned to use volume. Like, I had been playing professionally for 10, 12 years before I really learned to. I didn't come out of the womb doing that. I was afraid of that. I was totally chicken shit, you know? And then I learned, volume actually solves a lot of tonal problems. Like, this isn't quite working. Just turn that shit up.
Well, when I first started playing, I wasn't a very good player, but I
had volume.
I liked that volume, but I discovered that at that volume and articulation, I could hear myself too well, and I was intimidated by my own lack of skill.
Me too.
And I had to that's how I ended up with the 50, because that was the right balance between volume and covering up for my lack of skill.
Yeah.
The funny thing is as I got to be a better player and I graduated a 100 watt amp, I started graduating back to the 50 because I felt that was the right balance. But a typical 50 watt amp that's not a high watt, most of them don't behave that way. Most of them compress out too quickly. So that's why our amplifiers in the lower power ratings have always had more of that girth.
Yeah, yeah.
The girth for me is it's indispensable.
But
Thank you.
a D30 or ish adjacent kind of thing, I think that's pretty.
It can be done, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a cool
But
idea.
but then, whatever you do, don't bitch about it. I can't play it when the baby's sleeping. Oh yeah, you can't.
Power station.
Yeah,
PLIR.
yeah.
All right.
Go wrap the baby in bubble wrap until you're done rehearsing.
It's our buddy Mark. Have you ever looked at something like a GPDI that runs with only a DC supply? I may end up off grid. So I've gotten curious about running tubes off of 24 volts without turning on a big inverter to get AC.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
24 volts. The GPDI has a completely new power supply arrangement in it, that is universal AC. So anywhere from 85 to 255 volts. So it doesn't require a different transformer for different geographical regions,
Yeah.
like UK, Japan, um, Australia, in the European zone, whatever. That said, it's in that 85 to 120 volt range because it has a power converter in there to do that.
That's so cool.
That power converter converts 85 to 250 volts. It converts it to 12 volts DC. And that's what runs all the circuitry in the GPDI. It has a custom built, a bespoke power supply that we designed that will convert 12 volts into all the voltages needed inside the unit. So technically, you could bypass the internal 100 to 250 volt module and plug it into a 12 volt source as opposed to 24. The problem is it's just electronics. It's Ohm's law, right? So when the voltage goes down in relationship to the current that's being drawn, the current that's needed to be going in from the supply goes up. So a 500 volt supply on power tubes is a half of an amp supply. If you convert that to a 12 volt supply, converting 12 volts to 500 volts, the 500 volts on the plate supply is still a half an amp, but the 12 volts going in needs to be at between 3 and 5 amps.
Mm-hmm.
Because the voltage goes down, the current goes up.
Yeah.
So if you've got an off-grid power generator that generates 12 to 24 volts, then everything that you run off of that is not in that voltage range is going to require a lot more current. So basically what you're talking about is you want to get away from big inverters, but you're going to have to use an inverter. It's like the Panama Canal
Again?
scenario again.
Wow, that's a first.
Now it's just like only putting two Panama Canals in series.
Mm-hmm.
One to do this,
Yeah.
and then it goes like this, and then the other one to do this,
Yeah.
and then it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just kind of compensating for the compensation that the compensating circuitry was compensating for. It's very redundant and kind of counterintuitive, but it can it be done? Sure, yeah.
Mark is saying 12 volts is second best.
Well, see, then you would need an inverter to go from. You would need something. Actually, the power supply module that's in there,
Yeah.
well, then it opens a can of worms. Yeah, for the small amount of current that thing runs, you're not going to get away from everything. But that doesn't mean you have to have a big giant inverter either, an inverter power supply. You can get some little low energy portable thing that there's going to be.
Are you saying this? I guess Mark's talking about being on a boat?
Yeah, well,
Like
you're
both
going
12 and 24 bus supplied from big current lithium batteries.
Yeah. Well,
That's
you're not
cool,
just
man.
going off grid, you're going off land.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
I want to know more.
Yeah.
That's really, really,
Hey,
really awesome.
okay, well, you let us know when you're going to do that, and we'll try to find an inventive solution for you. How about that? That would be nice.
Oh, I love that. And then what we have to do is bring Mark on the show via StreamYard if he has some sort of a connection somewhere. We'll have him on. He can show his rig.
Mm.
That'd be too cool. All right, I'm getting close to when I got a bolt. We're getting towards the 2-hour mark. See if we can get some more. What else oh. Sorry for being rude. I don't recall you being rude. Since we're talking about the new Ultra Lead, which I think you're trying to not talk about, but
Yeah.
any thoughts to set a new benchmark on tone against the Wizard MTL? Do you want to put up the Dukes against other amps? I know you don't really think that way.
Hey, man, I haven't spoken to the Wizard dude in probably decades. But the last time we did hang out, we had a lot of fun and had a lot of drinks. So he was definitely a guy I could hang with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't see that as I don't see that as a competition. I see that as a flavor. I just love it when somebody is pushing on the envelope. And I respect other people that are doing that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I wish there were more people out there pushing the envelope. But I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of my peers just like going, yeah, I'm done. And I feel like, come on, don't leave the sandbox yet. The castle's almost finished. You know, I mean, I just feel like I'm still having fun with this. And I'm still finding new things to explore and try. And if I get the sense that somebody else out there is doing that, well, hey, if we're really trying to raise the bar, it's always better if somebody else is trying too.
Oh man, absolutely.
Because it's I was kind of shooting for here, and I can see that you're kind of shooting for there too. So maybe just because I don't know exactly what you're going, I'm just gonna move it up here a little bit, just
Yeah,
for the fuck of it, you know?
There's
I
a
mean-
type of competition where, you hear about it a lot in the culture, like, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan culture, which is, I just wanted to, grind my competition into dust. And we hear about that a lot, but I remember learning that the original meaning of the word competition was to seek within with others.
Hmm.
Meaning you're trying to draw the best out of yourself. That's the point.
That's right.
But really, a vehicle for that is to seek inside for the best in yourself. But you get that out of going, oh shit, you're trying to do that too. Like we're pushing each other. It's not like, I want to push you off the mountain so I can be the only one up here.
That's right.
It's like, no, you're helping me to become the best version of me that I can be by pushing yourself.
If you're running around a track and you're like racing a clock, you're like, okay, I need to get this in under, before the second hand gets there, I need to be there. But if somebody is right off of your shoulder doing the same thing, you're not only trying to get in under that notch, but you're trying to give yourself an extra notch because they might get there before you do.
Yeah.
And that's not I'm gonna kill that guy. That's like, that's my incentive to just push a little harder, because I think, oh, I've got a reason to push harder now.
Right.
And you see that all the time in genuine competition. This is the July, we're in the July tournament, the July sumo tournament right now.
Oh, awesome.
We're in the 10th day of the July sumo tournament, and you see this all the time in sumo. Sumo isn't like a competitive, I'm gonna beat the other guy into the dust kind of. rah, 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 kind of a thing.
Yeah.
This is a ritual, kind of a semi-religious ritual that's entertainment for the gods, where the players, the sumo wrestlers, are trying to be at their best in all aspects of their presentation. The most polite, empathetic, the powerful,
Very interesting.
strategic, tactical, and you see it in the empathy part where they're not trying to. Every once in a while, you see somebody do something that makes the other person angry. Usually, the thing that makes one of the two wrestlers angry is that the other one is kind of debasing the sport a little bit and taking like a shortcut and loses the respect of the other.
Right, disrespecting the game.
Yeah, disrespecting the game.
Don't do that.
As opposed to the real guys, the real top level guys, they won't go try to slam somebody completely out of the dojo, completely out of the ring, where they could potentially be injured if they can help it. Sometimes they'll slip and another guy will like trip over something and he'll end up going flying out of the dojo just by some bizarre coincidence. But if the guy who propels the other guy out of the ring can help it, he'll reach out and grab his arm before he goes off the edge because he doesn't want him to be injured. Because he might have to go get medical treatment and then he'll be out of the contest and they'll lose a contestant in the whole thing. And it sort of changes the whole dynamic of the game. So they don't want that. They just want to do their best. And if when they do these little mini interviews, after when a rikishi is coming up the ranks, and they go, okay, what's your goal to go to the next step? And they're always very humble, and they go, my goal is just to try to do the very best that I can always, and focus on improving my skill. That is my goal. My goal is to not disappoint the fans. My goal is to try to remember what my teachings and try to exemplify my best sumo that I can show to my audience who supports me. And I want to make sure that my audience gets what they came here for. And I want them to respect me. I have to respect the game in order to win their respect. It's all about that.
I love that.
When I'm doing what I'm doing and I see somebody doing something where they're still active and they're still engaged in upping their own game, then I'm like, what do we got going here? And if it's different than if it's and it's often in a similar vein, but a slightly different expression. So when I see that, I go, yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
I'll have one of those.
I kind of think of it like, I'm really into scotch. And certainly you can say, I prefer this distillery over this one for my personal taste. But you don't really go around saying, that's the best scotch. Like when you know it, that doesn't even make sense.
What the hell's the best scotch?
Yeah, you hated it when I first introduced you to it. Like, it's different expressions.
Yeah. Well, I learned
Right?
something.
Yeah, and it's just, is a Fender better than a Marshall? That's ridiculous. It's like, I prefer this, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get one more question, because unfortunately I have a thing I got to bolt to. I know Dave Mustaine used your power amps, because I've seen the pictures. Did Dave Mustaine use your power amps?
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong, but I swear I could hear the fret growl on the Euthanasia
Yeah,
album.
Megadeth and Metallica both used 2150s, probably after their first albums each, for a few years.
Yeah? That's sweet.
Not bragging, everybody was using them for a while because it was like the next thing. Everybody was buying refrigerator racks and everybody was going out putting stuff together, and it's just like now. It was the trend at the time,
Yeah.
and we just happened to be on that. We were fresh on the scene at the time, and it's like, this is the thing that you got to have, and that was all very exciting. Yeah. I still have some promo pictures from that. We keep a lot of stuff. We keep a lot of historical stuff in the archives just for fun.
You have to do the museum.
Yeah, but yeah, that's nice, and that was then, and this is now. I just feel like there's so much stuff going on that's exciting and fun to do going forward, that the legacy stuff is legacy. It's not something that we're just like trying to.
Let's get back to that version of the glory days.
Yeah. Mining.
As awesome as that was.
Mining where we've been is not as interesting to me as mining what comes next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
because that's just my personality. I get bored.
yeah.
Why do I want to do the same thing over again? Do you want to go write the same song that you wrote 25 years ago? You want to write that song again, or try to?
Depends on how much money you make from it. No, I'm kidding.
It's true. It's true.
I'm kidding. Thank you, Steve. Thanks to everybody
Thanks,
for tuning
everybody.
in.
Thanks for hanging with us.
I will say that we've been pretty spotty this year being on here. We're going to try and rectify that going through into the back half of the year. We've had a discussion about that, so we're going to do our best.
Yeah, actually, we figured out
love
one of
hanging with you guys.
the things that we need to do is remind ourselves that we are inconsistent and always getting dragged different directions. So one of the things that we came up with that would help us sort of stay on track with the show all the time is just to reinforce the fact that we like doing it and we're going to continue doing it. So let's make a plan of doing it. And so we're putting it in our calendars to keep pinging us to remember.
We actually have it in the calendar.
We have it in the calendar,
Yeah.
because a few years ago, a week took 2 weeks to go by, and now a week takes 3 days to go by. So when we only do it every 2 weeks, because we couldn't even possibly conceive of doing it every week, now 2 weeks seems like a week. When I was thinking about we were going to do it today, I was like, God, is it Saturday already? Is it the second Saturday already?
Yeah.
But that's we're all experiencing this. Life is coming at us fast, isn't it?
Yes.
For everybody, life is coming at us fast. So we're trying to prepare for that so that we can be more on top of it. Yeah.
We're going to do it, man.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
All right.
We have to do it.
All right.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ed
Thank you,
Paul.
Joe.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Huh?
It's
Yeah.
in the calendar. You're
It's-
going to start getting the ping
Okay.
next week.
Ping. All right, you guys. Good night.
Cheers. Take care.